Welcome to a Steeler Thoughts Chief Feelings film review. This video will review the first team offense and defense's play in the Chiefs' first preseason game of 2025 at the Arizona Cardinals. Thanks to all of you who followed along the channel during last football season. We're really happy to build the following that we got. We're going to continue doing more film reviews for you through this season, this time really only focusing on the Chiefs. But please follow along with our podcast, the Steeler Thoughts Chief Feelings podcast on YouTube and wherever you download podcasts. And we will try to be more active on social media, mainly on Twitter and Instagram at STCF715. Thanks again. All right, let's take a look at the Chiefs offense. So in this film review, we're going to look at all of the plays that involve the Chiefs' starting offensive line. So if you remember, they had a quick drive with the first team offense, and then they actually went with Gardner Minshew for a drive as well. So we're going to break down all of those plays, really because the offensive line, especially the left side of the offensive line, is a particular interest to us. So for the first team plays, we'll kind of break them down a little more holistically. And then when the second team comes in, we'll really focus on Josh Simmons at left tackle and Kingsley Suamataia at left guard to see if we can get a better idea of how they are playing and how they're playing with each other to give us an idea of what to think about the first team going forward. If you want thoughts about other offensive players and or defensive players, check out the Steeler Thoughts Chief Feelings podcast. We'll discuss some of them in more detail, but really for the film reviews, I'm looking at the people that we're expecting to play the majority of snaps on Sundays. I want to see how those guys are playing together as we start the new year. All right, so let's get started with this one. We've got the Chiefs with a quick first down and 10 inside the red zone because of a fumble forced on the opening kickoff. Jack Cochran punched it out, and Chiefs recovered. So we've got a first down, and the Chiefs are in 11 personnel. That's one running back, Isaiah Pacheco, one tight end, Travis Kelce. The wide receivers are Tyquan Thornton out wide, Juju Smith-Schuster in the slot, Xavier Worthy isolated on the other side. And of course, what we're interested in going forward, the left guard over here, Kingsley Suamataia getting the start, and Joshua Simmons at left tackle. So let's take a look at this play, and then we'll break it down. We got Mahomes in the shotgun. He motions Kelce over. Kelce comes back over to the left. Hands it off on a draw to Pacheco, who manages to bust his way up for close to 10 yards. Looks like more like 8.5, something like that. So let's see what happens here on this play. If you see, as they drop back, Mitchell Schwartz brought up the question, was the draw really in the first 15, or do you think it was because of where they were on the field? They liked to play in that area. He opined that it was probably more the latter, that it was because they started in the red zone that their first play was a draw. But it is an interesting question. We don't see a ton of draws from him, this iteration of the Chiefs at least. But they look to be going to the right from the start. And if you look at Trey Smith in particular, the way that he kind of lets the tackle come in on him and then wall him off, creating a nice little hole for Pacheco. The Cardinals are playing like a soft drop coverage. You can see it's probably, appeared pretty static with the lack of response to Travis Kelce's motion. But they, weren't really flying to the line on this at all, so it made it for an easy situation for a draw. Looks like everybody on the line kind of held up. They didn't have that much to do. This was just a good play call against a good play call in the right situation. But the one that I would want to highlight is Trey Smith, the way that he walled off his tackle, creating the nice lane for Pacheco, got up to the second level. We can see it from the end zone view. Here, Mahomes with the late handoff, and look at how Trey Smith just allows 94 to come to him and just gets him over to the side. Creed does a good job of kind of sneaking up and then making his move to get out in front of this. Kelsey also comes to wall off second level defender. And Pacheco is able to sneak through for a good gain on first down. Then we jump to the second play, the forgotten play, or non-existent now play of the first team offense. After the run by Pacheco, Chiefs lined up here again in 11 personnel. We've got one running back, one tight end is Travis Kelce. Looks like they're about 2nd and 2 or so. Wide receivers, it's the same group. Thornton, Juju in the slot, Xavier Worthy. And really the same alignment. Let's run the play real quick and then we'll break it down. Kelsey comes across in motion the same way. Holmes takes the snap, fakes the handoff, throws to Thornton, who goes down, not able to make the catch, but the Chiefs get a flag and they end up calling defensive pass interference. So this play is just a simple RPO here. Patrick Mahomes has the option to hand this off to Pacheco, or he's got a passing option over here where Juju's running a bubble screen and Thornton's running a slant. So his discretion, what he likes best. I think seeing as it doesn't look like there's going to be much help over the middle of the field. Look, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So they've got 8 in the box. So it's not great numbers for a run. So Mahomes may have looked at this right now and been like, I like the pass option. He might not ever have been running this, like handing this ball off. The line, as you'll see, is blocking as if it is a run. That's how RPOs work. So you're going to get a double team here and a double team here and then coming off to the next level. So the timing of the RPO is very important. Quarterback has to get that throw off before the linemen are more than a yard downfield. Otherwise, it'll be an ineligible man downfield. So here, fakes the handoff. Boom. And he's trying to hit Thornton on the slant. The defender actually gets pretty good position coming around, but it's this hand on his hip. You can see the ball's right here still. It's still in the air. And that hand on the hip and the twist right there where he like brings him to the ground. It's a little, I mean, by the book it's pass interference, you know. He's going down because he's trying to knock the ball away. But the fact that I feel like if he, at this instant right here, as he's coming, if he releases his hip right here, it's not called. But the fact that him coming down to knock the ball away resulted in him essentially like twisting Thornton and tackling him, that's why it's called pass interference. You can see it here from Mahomes' view, and what we really care about in this is these two gentlemen right here, who we're hoping is the future of the Chiefs' left side of the offensive line. Watch them come in and execute a nice double team. Creed and Trey do the same thing over here, the high-paid guys. And then Trey actually comes off to make a second level block too. But there they are trying to move men. And as Mahomes gets the throw off, looks like Trey, they're not quite 2 yards. So usually between that 1 to 2, well, maybe it's hard to tell. It's close. Between that 1 to 2 yard mark, they get a little bit of leeway as far as being downfield. But Mahomes gets that throw off. They get the pass interference call. So it's going to be 1st and goal at the 1 yard line. Now jumping to the next play, which is the last play that the first team offense played in this game. We got a 1st and goal at the 1 yard line. The Chiefs are lined up again in 11 personnel, as they've done on every play so far. We've got Pacheco as the running back, Kelce as the tight end. 1 running back, 1 tight end gets you 11. The left side is the same. Thornton and then Juju in the slot. Juju directing Thornton where to stand. And then on the right side, instead of Worthy, we've got Jason Brownlee, who is a kind of camp darling for this year. And as we'll see once we run this was a play that was really kind of just set up for him intentionally. So I saw a lot of people talking about the fact that, like, okay, well, he was on the field before Royals. Like, what does that mean? Well, I wouldn't read too much into it because this play was clearly a play designed for him. They brought him on the field for this play. So it doesn't really tell us what they think about him versus Royals or anybody else as an overall wide receiver. It just tells us that they're interested in his usage in the red zone and on these types of plays. So let's take a look at it, and then we can break it down. We got Mahomes in the gun. Takes a snap, throws to Brownlee back shoulder, Brownlee makes a great catch for the touchdown. And so looking at this, there are a couple of things that I think are important. So, Patrick Mahomes has not really been a tight window thrower, period. That's been the case throughout his career. He throws to guys that are open. He also has not been a huge back shoulder thrower, although he did show that ability, especially in 2022 with Juju. They had some chemistry there. But it's not been like a consistent thing. He's not like a jump ball thrower in the end zone. So it's interesting that they're trying this out. And I know Chiefs fans have already gotten kind of excited in the past about Justin Ross and his possibility in being that guy. And, Ross was just cut from the team and allowed to pursue other opportunities after being a camp darling for a couple years and even making the roster one year. But maybe it'll be different with Brownlee is what people are thinking, because the Chiefs definitely tried this out intentionally. I think the first thing to take note of is watch Brownlee keep the corner in front of him and keep the corner going away from the ball until the last minute. He does not, even at this moment, he does not at all allow the corner to realize that this ball is coming back shoulder, right? The whole benefit of a back shoulder throw, and the only time that you will throw back shoulder, is when you feel like the corner is remaining over the top of your receiver, right? And you need the corner's back turned so that they don't see it, because if the back shoulder throw is foreseen by the corner, that's something that could theoretically be jumped, especially in the red zone, where if he's able to jump this, it's not like he's getting a ton of depth on his coverage. So if he's able to jump that, something very bad could happen. He could take that all away. So with Mahomes making a quick throw here, all he's really scanning to make sure is that probably, that's my guess, is that the corner's not looking at him. If the corner's looking at him, you cannot throw this back shoulder. But that's all Mahomes really has time on this, right? He's just kind of hopping back and planting and firing. So probably the one thing he's scanning is, are you looking at me? If you're looking over there, I'm throwing this ball. And Brownlee does a good job of keeping the corner's attention and keeping the corner's momentum in this direction until the very last minute. That to me is the best part. I mean, yes, it's an awesome catch, a really, really good catch. But it's also really good how well he's able to ensure that there is no way that the corner can interfere with this catch, because he keeps the corner moving. Even though he's looking back, he doesn't give any indication the ball is behind him until he plants right here and goes. He keeps the corner moving in this direction, and then he's able to use his body to stay in between the ball and the corner. The corner has no chance here, and this is just unreal athleticism to go back and get the ball. But I mean, this is very promising. This is the kind of thing that'll play, right? If you can set a corner up, get him moving away, him focused on you, and then you have the athleticism to then turn around and make that catch. I mean, that's a phenomenal catch. So it's interesting, if Brownlee can come in and be a little bit of a red zone threat. The other person that was we were hoping might be able to do something like this was Jody Fortson, and poor guy has struggled with the most untimely of injuries. It seems like anytime he's getting stuff together, he gets hurt. But he would have been the other intriguing person. The other thing you got to say is the ball placement here. I mean, Mahomes throws it right in the right spot. This is a great throw, great setup by the receiver, and the read to understand that the corner is not going to interfere with this because he's not paying attention. If he's looking back at the quarterback, you don't make this throw. I don't know that we can tell a lot from the line here on a quick throw like this. I mean, you love how quickly Simmons gets out of his stance and how well he moves. I mean, he's always set, and it's not like forced. It's not like he's, occasionally when Juwan Taylor gets his big like vertical sets, like it just looks asynchronous with the rest of the team. But man, Simmons is just a smooth mover. I mean, you really have to like the way that he just looks like an athlete. And if he is as strong as he seems at the NFL level and he moves like he does relative to NFL defensive linemen, it's pretty exciting. Anyway, that would be it for the first team offense, but we'll keep looking at the first team offensive line as they played with the rest of the second team. All right, Gardner Minshew's in the game. Looks like Kelsey and Pacheco are done for the day, but the Chiefs' starting offensive line is still there, and so we are going to review those snaps with particular emphasis on the left side of the offensive line to see how they're coming together, with our left guard being Kingsley Suamataia, who used to be our left tackle until he was benched after 2 games last year, and our new left tackle, Joshua Simmons. If these two play well, this could be an amazing young core to like build up the left side of the line, with the rest of the interior, the center and guard, Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey are paid and around here for a little while. Right side, Juwan Taylor, more than likely his last year in Kansas City, but that's a bridge we can cross when we get there. We care about the left side today, so we'll take a look at it. Chiefs are in 11 personnel. 1 running back, Kareem Hunt. 1 tight end, Noah Gray. Get to 11 personnel. And the wide receivers are Jalen Royals out wide, Tyquan Thornton in the slot, and Xavier Worthy out wide on the other side. Chiefs are essentially just going to run verticals. Got Thornton coming across, Noah Gray running up the seam, and Royals is going to run a hitch. And Kareem Hunt is going to leak out of the backfield. It's kind of an Andy Reid special with the running back to clear out everybody and see if you can get the running back going. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this clip already on social media because of what happened on the left side of the line on this one. There's a late blitz coming from this linebacker, and Kingsley Suamataia is a little late to pick it up. So as the blitz comes in, Kingsley kind of comes toward helping with the tackle and opens up a little bit, gives too much on the outside, then struggles to get back in front of the blitzing linebacker. Ultimately, it gets pushed off of his spot and trips over Creed. And at the same time, the defensive tackle that Creed was working with also is able to loop around. So he's able to loop around, and the linebacker gets to him, and Minshew's attempt to pass it to Kareem Hunt falls incomplete. So a lot has been said about this play. To me, it's one play. Like, I'm not overly concerned about it. I think that the fact that he was, a lot of people made mention of the fact that he was overpowered by a linebacker. I'm not as worried about that because he was off balance, right? Like, Kingsley, we know, is not somebody who did very well with getting himself into a spot quickly, like recovering and re-anchoring. He was really inconsistent with that. So the problem to me is the late identification of the blitz. He IDs the blitz late. He's not able to get out to his spot, and so he's not able to get a strong base and gets pushed off his spot. You also don't know, the unfortunate bit is right as he's pushed right here is when he trips on Creed. So we also don't know, it's possible that after taking that shove, he's able to re-anchor and hold his ground, It was a comedy of errors here, he not able to get there in time. That kind of lateral agility piece has always been a problem for him. That's why he might be better suited as a guard than a tackle. So he just missed the blitz, wasn't able to get out there on time, took an initial hit, and never really got a chance to recover and re-anchor because he tripped over Creed. I don't know. Obviously not a good rep, but not something to be like, oh no, he got clowned by a linebacker. He missed a blitz. Yeah, it happens. He's a young guy. It's a new position. Let's see how it goes. If we're looking over at Joshua Simmons, he looks fantastic. Gets out in front of the end, essentially stands him up, nowhere to go. It's a good rep from him. All right, we've got the second down play now on the 21-yard line. We've got 11 personnel again, Hunt and Gray. And we've got Royals, Thornton, and Xavier Worthy. This time, a little more varied pass concept. So we're going to have Thornton clear out. Now, this is something to watch because remember, people have talked about how Thornton kind of most tracks as the Justin Watson MVS kind of role in this offense. So you see him running a very Justin Watson or MVS route here, just clearing out. Jalen Royals is going to go out. Noah Gray's going to turn, make himself available. Worthy runs an in, and Hunt goes out to the flat. The Cardinals run like a modified cover one man, essentially blitzing the linebacker again and dropping the end in coverage. He actually is man-to-man coverage on Kareem Hunt, and the other linebacker ends up being the robber. So as we watch this unfold, Minshew sees it quick and throws it out to Hunt. Kareem Hunt looks like he's got a little bit of juice. He looks a little more like he did earlier in the season before he got worn down. I wonder if the Chiefs are going to be able to keep his touches more manageable this year so that he can hopefully have some juice in the playoffs. All right, so looking at our linemen here, they ran the same blitz at Kingsley again, and he was ready for it this time. He passed off the tackle and was ready for the blitz, ready to pick it up right there. It looks like the goal on this throw may have been a quick throw. You see, let's get to the end zone view. So you see Josh Simmons, this time handling a speed rush around the edge. He gets out and works him around the arc. If you look at the depth here that he's allowing, way behind the quarterback. Like I said, it looks like they knew this was going to be a quick pass. That was the design here. So Simmons perfectly happy to give up that level of depth. He's not expecting a deep drop from his quarterback. One reason why you think that it might have been known that they were going to take the quick throw is that Juwan Taylor quick set. Even if Juwan Taylor is gonna, he's gonna quick set, it's a quick throw. He's the one that takes all the deep vertical sets all the time. But yeah, this snap looks pretty good from the left side. Of course, it's quick, so the ball getting out always helps everybody. But Kingsley much more equipped to handle that blitz, ready for it. Simmons does a nice job working his man deeper on the arc. No chance for any problems there. It's a good rep from the left side there. So I realized that I referred to Jalen Moore as Juwan Taylor on the last clip, and so that's why Juwan Taylor was quick setting. It wasn't Juwan Taylor, it was Jalen Moore. In the second drive, the Chiefs have the starting offensive line, but they've swapped Juwan Taylor for Jalen Moore, as they have been kind of rotating him in during training camp at right tackle occasionally. So my mistake on that last one. But let's get to this third down play. We now have the Chiefs again in 11 personnel. One running back, Kareem Hunt. One tight end, Noah Gray. They've still got Worthy, Royals, and Thornton in the game. So they run a nice pass concept. Andy, I love the way he dials these things up. They're playing against cover one man, and so he's got Gray coming up and in, and he's got Thornton on his inside hip then coming out, and it works as like a natural rub action. Royals comes up and does a return, but watch how Thornton runs this route. Like, he stays behind, and the timing here is so important. He stays behind and to the inside, trying to make his defender have to stay over the top of Noah Gray. And then as his defender approaches Noah Gray's defender, as they get close, that's when he sneaks behind and makes his break. And that just buys him enough separation. It acts as a natural rub to get him open for a big catch for a first down. But it's all about play design and execution. This is why Andy Reid is so detail-oriented. He's got the design that, if you guys time this right, and time this right, I mean like the steps, how far away, this distance is all important. How far away you are from Noah Gray. The timing of your route, time your steps up with him so that you can make your break right when you want to. Right when he's coming in, right when your defender is leaning in, and then you break out. And that's just enough of a rub, the defender having to kind of watch for his teammate and come out over the top a little bit, and he's not able to get any kind of angle to come in and close out on this. And that's a big catch for a first down. So just cool play design from Andy Reid. And then if we are to look over at the left side of our line, Kingsley actually has some work to do on this one. He and Creed are working together on the defensive tackle. And Josh Simmons, if you'll notice, he gets hands up to his face, which is a defensive penalty that wasn't called. But even in that instance, with the hands up in his face, he's able to hold his ground and allow a throw to come off. So really good rep there from Simmons. And we can see the line operating. So here are Kingsley and Creed doubling. Looks good. Simmons gets out. Initially gets pushed back a little bit. He's got hands up at his neck. That's really, really close. So it's possible the hands weren't quite up in his face, but definitely up into his neck. So it's very close, borderline. But he managed to hold his ground and let his quarterback make a throw. And the throw was possible due to a nice play design and great execution from Gray and Thornton. Also, you wonder, like, if the Cardinals were going to run cover one like that, like, you just wonder about getting Worthy open and just trying a deep shot to him at some point during this game, because Worthy would have been able to beat them deep at some point. But all in all, a good rep, nicely done from Gray and Thornton, and the left side of the line looked good. All right, so we got our next play on first down. Chiefs remain in 11 personnel with Kareem Hunt as the running back. And they've got Robert Tonyan here as a tight end. Actually, this is 12 personnel. Noah Gray's up here too. So we've got one running back, two tight ends. They got Robert Tonyan in. He's basically taking Worthy's place because it looks like we've got Thornton and Royal still here in the game. So it's 12 personnel, but they really spread it out until Tonyan comes in here tight. And it looks like this is, again, an RPO. So if you look at it, Minshew has the option. He can hand off here, going that way, or he's got the kind of swing slant combination that we saw in the red zone on the pass interference to Thornton earlier with the first team offense. But if you see here, this seems like a much better option to hand this off. The box is light. There are, you might call this a 7-man box, but the linebackers are playing off, which really makes this slant a lot harder to throw, right? Because you have this underneath defender. So this seems like, unless you're going to really pop it in this window, which is something that Mahomes does frequently, you can hand this one off. And Hunt, the line actually creates decent hole, but it's great fill from the safety here, who's the one unblocked man, and he just comes right down and makes the play. But if we look at the line, look at Kingsley run blocking. So we've got Creed, who's trying to get to the second level and find a linebacker. And Kingsley comes and takes the defensive tackle, and he moves him. Walls him off and moves him. I mean, this is quite decent. It's not dominant, but, and the tackle's able to try to get an arm on Hunt, but it's really Buda Baker's presence here that ends up blowing this play up. But I feel like this is a pretty decent rep from Kingsley. Does his job, and same thing from Simmons. Coming through and making sure things are walled off from the back. So if we have a situation where these guys can move people in the run game, because that's one thing, Tooney was an absolute monster as a pass blocker, and he certainly wasn't negative as a run blocker, but he wasn't a mauler either. So with this, added strength, this added beef, if they're able to move people in the run game, we know what Trey Smith does in the run game, and Creed is always game. So suddenly that could make this part of the offense a little bit more dangerous. In this case here, a good run fit from Buda Baker kind of stops this play in its tracks. Now we get to the second down play after that short run from the Chiefs, and we've got the Chiefs out here in 11 personnel again. We got the one running back is Kareem Hunt. The tight end is Noah Gray. Now we've got Tyquan Thornton, Sky Moore, and Jalen Royals on the field. Got Minshew in the shotgun, and let's see what happens. Got Gray motions over and comes back over to the left. Minshew takes the snap, and the Chiefs run another draw, and Kareem Hunt just excelling at picking through traffic and shaking off weak tackles, ends up getting a first down. So here again, the draw, a lot more about deception. Trey Smith not as successful at just walling his guy off as he was last time to create this hole. Jalen Moore does a pretty good job on this side. But Smith does enough to give Hunt a chance to squeeze by. And that's all you got to do. The big thing about blocking is just give your guy a chance. It doesn't have to look pretty. It doesn't have to be dominant. And Trey Smith's able to do that. It wasn't the rep that he had before, but it's a similar design here. You've got Humphrey getting to the second level. Noah Gray too. We saw Humphrey and Travis Kelce do that when the first team offense was out, and Chiefs run it again quite successfully. Not a ton for our left side guys to do because they're on the back side of this run, so they're basically just holding their ground and making sure nobody is able to crash it from behind. Good play. Chiefs like this draw. They've run it twice in this game already, and couple decent-sized runs. The Chiefs had a botched QB center exchange on the next play. No point in having to break that down, so we'll go to the second down play where they are set up again, 11 personnel. Got the one running back, one tight end, Noah Gray. That running back looks like it's Elijah Mitchell has gotten into the game. Yeah, that's right. So Elijah Mitchell, Noah Gray, running back, tight end, that gives you 11 personnel. Then we've got Thornton, Sky Moore, and Jalen Royals. So we'll take a look at this play. Minshew out of the shotgun, sends Mitchell over to the left, takes a snap out of empty and throws a quick screen to Royals that gets completely blown up. So going back and looking at this one, so they're really trying to get the whole line out there, trying to get a whole convoy. But nobody is able to make one of the initial important blocks that will make this play happen. I mean, number one is Sky Moore. He's got to block him. Let's just take a look at how that goes. Well, he's the one that makes the tackle. So not great from Sky Moore. You really got to feel for the guy. This is second round pick. Really, if you get through like week 2 of 2023, where I think he had something like 6 catches for 70 some odd yards or something, maybe even more as far as yardage, because he had that really long catch to seal the game against Jacksonville. But ever since then, it's just been a comedy of errors, And he had the issues his rookie year with the drops and the muff punts, but you were just thinking that, things might turn around for him. It just never happened. And then when you're on this side and you're missing blocks and stuff, like what value are you showing the team, that you have? That's really tough. I really feel bad because from the outside, he looks like a really good guy. But Jalen Moore wasn't able to get his block either. I mean, I know it's tough getting out there and getting a smaller, quicker guy, but, if nobody's going to block anybody, screen pass isn't going to work. The other thing that seems unfortunate is, they've got the whole line trying to form a convoy out here. But it looks like my guess is because of the defensive end getting toward the passing lane, Minshew has to throw this ball behind Royals. Like, the ideal would be to get Royals moving this way, since his convoy is right here and going. But the throw, he catches back here and he spins to his outside. So he's going in the wrong direction. He's not where his blockers are. The blockers that are supposed to be doing things out here are not. Just not a good play overall. Not much to say other than once Sky Moore and Jalen Moore missed their blocks, nothing was happening on this play. And the ball placement didn't help, although I don't think Minshew did that out of just poor placement. I think he did it out of necessity because the defensive end was getting in his passing lane. So all in all, not good. Not a great play. You can watch it from the end zone view. And you can see how, the offensive lineman just kind of quick contact and get out there. And, he had a convoy. Here they are. They're all ready, but couldn't even get off the ground here and going in the wrong direction too. So, yeah, unfortunate play. And now we have the last play with our first team offensive line on the field. This is a third down play. So they started going backwards. We're in 11 personnel one more time. One running back here, Kareem Hunt, and our tight end is Noah Gray over there. Tyquan Thornton, Sky Moore, and Jalen Royals are the wide receivers. Let's take a look at this play, and then we can break it down. We got Minshew in the gun. They motion Royals over and bring him back. So we're staying with 3-by-1. Takes the snap. Gets some pressure. He rolls out to his right, doesn't see anything he likes, and runs out of bounds. To make matters worse, there is a holding call, a flag that was thrown on Trey Smith. So what are the Chiefs doing here? Well, they've got crossers, and they've got Thornton coming back. Minshew drops back. And on the left side, actually, the pocket's pretty good. So Simmons does get chip help right here from Kareem Hunt, who chips going out. But he's able to maintain his side of the pocket pretty well. Kingsley and Creed are working together again to work on the tackle. It really looks like Jalen Moore is the one who he allowed some inside pressure, but actually got on top of it. And Minshew bailed and seemed to think that he was going to be able to hit one of these crossers, but neither guy really came open like that, so he ended up holding on to it. Again, looking at it from this view, nothing to complain about from our two youngins, Kingsley, of course, had Creed helping, and Simmons had the chip, but they really did a good job holding their ground. Nobody got open for Minshew. That ended the drive, and they ended up having to punt. So that's it from our first team offensive line evaluation. We'll have more snaps to look at from week 2. And then when we do week 3 preseason, because the first team doesn't play that much, we might just have some fun backup plays to look at. But that's it for the first team offensive line. So let's look at the starting defense from the Chiefs preseason week 1 game against the Arizona Cardinals. We're going to focus on the first team defense because I really want to look at the players that we're expecting to play together on Sundays. There are a lot of exciting defensive players that are not in the starting group, at least yet in the preseason, and we're all very interested in them, be them rookies or bubble players, but I won't be focusing on them here in the film review because, like I said, I'm trying to look at the guys who we feel like are probably going to be playing together most of the snaps on Sundays. So if you want to hear thoughts about the rookie defenders or any bubble players, check out our Steeler Thoughts Chief Feelings podcast, where I will talk through some of my thoughts about some of these guys. But let's get to the film review. We're starting here with the Chiefs' first defensive snap. This comes in the first quarter. The Chiefs are already up 7-0. They went up real quick in this one. And the Cardinals have the ball 1st and 10 at their own 36-yard line. So let's take a look at personnel. The first time the ones are getting on the field, who do we got and what are we doing? So the Cardinals come out in 12 personnel, heavy formation here. They've got 1 running back and they've got 2 tight ends, both of them on the left side there, so that's why you get 12, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, 1, 2, and you have 2 wide receivers. So the Chiefs match up with this in their base meaning that they have 4 defensive backs on the field, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what's interesting about this to start is that the corners are guys you'd expect. Jalen Watson is out there. A, he was the second corner last year. B, Christian Fulton has been hurt in training camp. So he's the only other guy that you'd think challenge for cornerback 2. So Jalen Watson being there, not surprising. Trent McDuffie's out there, again, not surprising. Brian Cook at safety is also not surprising. Shamari Connor being the other deep safety. I mean, it's actually in line with the Chiefs' unofficial depth chart that they put out, but still, I think Shamari Connor's usage will be a real focus in this preseason because a lot of Chiefs fans are wondering, is he going to play the slot when they have extra defensive backs? If they really like him deep, maybe somebody else will play the slot. I think everyone would love it if Trent McDuffie played some slot. But we also know that Spags likes having 3 safeties on the field, or even 4 safeties when he gets into 6 defensive backs. So that'll be interesting. But interesting to note that Connor is there as the second safety on base defense, at least right now. Linebackers aren't really a surprise. We've got Chanel as the strong side Sam linebacker. Nick Bolton is the middle Mike linebacker, and since Drew Tranquil is hurt, we've got Jack Cochran as the weak side Will linebacker. Defensive ends are Mike Dana and George Karlaftis, also not a huge surprise. That's how the Chiefs have kind of played it, with Charles Omenihu rotating in, and then our tackles are Pennell at the 1 technique, which means he's on the outside shoulder, the center. Chris Jones is a 3 technique on the outside shoulder, the guard. All right, so let's take a look at this play real quick, and then we can break it down. We've got Murray in the shotgun. Again, they're loaded up to the left, and it ends up being a handoff to the left, and James Conner gets stuffed pretty quickly. We'll take a look from the sideline view and then really get into it more on the broadcast view, or the end zone view, because you can see the run game a lot better from there. But essentially, fitting the run is essentially controlling the gaps, right? Each player is responsible for a gap between 2 offensive players to make sure that the running back doesn't have anywhere to go. The gaps are so named, starting at the center. The gaps on either side of him, that's between the center and the guard, are called A gaps. The gaps between the guard and the tackle are B gaps. The gaps outside of the tackle, usually between the tackle and tight end, are C gaps, and so on. So here you've got it pretty much set up that Karlaftis is taking the C gap, Cochran is taking the B gap, Mike Pennell is taking the A gap next to it. Nick Bolton comes into the A gap on the other side. Chris Jones takes the B gap on this side. Mike Dana has the C gap. Leo Chanel has the gap between the two tight ends, the D gap, and then Jalen Watson will come in and fill in on the outside of the tight end. So you can see they work pretty harmoniously here. You can see everybody kind of filling to their spot. This run is designed to go to the left, so really Connor is going to start reading usually from here. If you look at, you will be able to see his eyes a little better, but it looks like he's trying very quickly to go toward the B gap. Sees there's nothing there, looks C gap, and then Leo Chanel closes the D gap as he tries to force through it. So let's take a look at it where we can actually see it in some detail. First of all, we always talk about Nick Bolton getting everybody in the right spot. We've got Cochran lined up over here. Bolton shifts him over, and he's responsible ultimately for this B gap here. So we've got Karlaftis here, Cochran here, Pennell here in the A gap. Nick Bolton's the other A gap. Chris Jones in the B gap. Pennell is Dana is responsible for this C gap, and Leo Chanel is closing the gap between the two tight ends. So watch Connor as he comes up. So he's already got, as he's taking the handoff, look at Connor seeing Nick Bolton screaming down his A gap right here, right? And so he's going to continue to read this. Chris Jones has shut the door on this B gap. There is nowhere to go there. So then the question, he starts looking over here. Okay, do I have the C gap? Well, Pennell closes that as he's coming. So look, let's bounce it. Okay, what about here? Do I have this gap, the D? He tries to come in through here, and Chanel does a good job of... See, one thing that running backs often look for here is the flash of the helmet of the defensive player. So you can see right here, as he's looking at that C gap, you can see Mike Dana's helmet coming in, which gives you an indicator that he's controlling this side of the gap. Well, as he bounces it, you don't see Leo Chanel's helmet pop over on this side. So I wonder if that's one reason why he tried to pursue that gap. Also because Jalen Watson is screaming it on the outside. Because the only other option then is to try to see if you can squeeze by him through here. But you don't see Chanel, but instead of doing, watch the difference between Chanel's technique and Dana's technique. Dana is getting to this side so he can try to control this side of the gap to get his body over here. Chanel is still on this side of the blocker, but instead of trying to slide over and control the gap, he's just shoving the blocker into the gap to close the gap. And that's what he does, and it works. Gap is closed. But you wonder if Connor, that's part of the reason why he tried to cut it up in there, is he's like, I have, the defender's not on this side of the gap, but it doesn't matter. He just shoved the tight end right in there, McBride right in there. Nowhere for Connor to go. Watson, it's important for him to close this, so there's no chance of a bounce between, and they stuff the run. Really good run defense there by the Chiefs on their first team defensive snap of the preseason. All right, so on the second defensive snap now, we've got a second and about 9. The Cardinals moved it about a yard on their first play, and so they come out again in 12 personnel. This time they've got the one running back and the two tight ends are split instead of being both on the same side. But one running back and two tight ends give you 12 personnel, and then they've got 2 wide receivers. So the Chiefs will play their base defense again, 4 defensive backs, and the personnel is exactly the same. Connor and Cook are the safeties. Watson, McDuffie are the corners. Cochran, Bolton, Chanel are the linebackers. Dana, Karlaftis are the ends. Chris Jones, Mike Pennell are the tackles. So let's take a look at this play real quick, and then we will break it down. Got Murray dropping back to throw. He escapes left and gains about 4 or 5 yards to set up a third and about 5. Okay, so what happens on this play? The Cardinals are essentially running 4 curls. So got the receiver coming out and sitting here, the tight end coming out and sitting wide, and the receiver curling, and then this tight end McBride actually goes out to the flat. So just like coming out, making themselves available quickly. The Chiefs are playing like man match, what they call quarters coverage is what it looks like. The basic idea in quarters coverage is you've got a shell of 4 guys, and they are all kind of taking deep responsibilities based on the pattern of the pass patterns, essentially, the combination of pass patterns from the offense. They have different rules that they're following. And it looks like the sets of rules on either side are different for the Chiefs on this play. It looks like on this side they're playing what is called palms, or 2-read coverage. That is my guess here, looking at what they're doing. And the basic principle, without getting into too much detail here, is that they've got 2 pass catching options here. And so what they do is the corner and the safety here are going to read the inside guy. And essentially, if the inside guy goes out, the corner's got him. If he goes anywhere else, pretty much, the safety's got him. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's the basic idea. So you see here that right as McBride pops out, Watson goes with him. Connor now is just trying to stay over the top of this route because he's only got 2 receivers to his side. And then what happens is if this route curls off like this, now Connor is getting some depth just in case someone from this side is going to come over, like running a post. So that's basically what the Chiefs do on that side. And you can see they covered up pretty well. Watson gets out over here. Cochran is sitting underneath, and he's right in place for the curl. Connor staying up over the top. Now, this side down here, that seems to actually be a little more of like a standard quarters coverage. That's what it looks like to me. So the basic principle on that one would be that McDuffie essentially has this guy. This is our 1, this is our 2, and there's a 3 on this side, being the running back. So the 1, McDuffie's going to guard him unless he cuts underneath, which is what he does on this play. So if you see 1 cut underneath, that's why McDuffie just kind of drops back and tries to find some work. The safety is generally responsible for the second guy, especially if he goes vertical. But since everybody's curling, again, when you see everybody taking underneath routes, the safeties then just kind of come up deep because you're reading one side, you don't know what's happening. Someone might be coming across from the other side. So, all right, if the guys on your side are taken care of as shallow, you get some depth and make sure you close the post. And then the third guy over here, Chanel, is basically responsible for anybody that goes in the flat. So if he happened to go to the flat, or he happened to go to the flat, or he happened to go to the flat, which is ultimately what happened, Chanel's got that guy. So you see 1 go underneath, so McDuffie drops off of him, Bolton picks him up. The second guy comes and curls down, so Cook sees he's shallow, he just goes to get depth. The third guy, as he's coming out wide, Chanel comes off of shoving 1 and going underneath, passing him off to Bolton, and then getting out wide to look at this guy. So that's what the Chiefs coverage looks like, what they're trying to do. And as you can see, it's pretty successful. Here's Kyler Murray at the back of his drop. Bolton's over the top. Cochran's right here. Watson's here. McDuffie and Chanel at this point have this kind of bracketed. And Chanel is seeing the running back coming to the flat, so he's about to get out there and make sure he doesn't get beat out wide. At the same time, Chris Jones is taking on a double team up in the middle, and Mike Pennell stunts around him and gets the guard. And if you look at him, Mike Pennell is able to bull rush this guard back into Kyler Murray's lap. Murray feels that pressure in the pocket, and since Pennell has stunted around and left a gap open, Murray takes that escape route and just bails. Good coverage, plus the pocket collapsing makes Murray scramble. He ends up getting a gain of about 5 before Karlaftis comes over and falls on him. From this view, we can get a better look at the stunt. So you see Chris Jones already moving laterally at the snap. and he's trying to get into the other side of the center. So cross the face of the center to really allow, and ideally for him, if the guard follows, then you give Pennell a little bit more of a clean run. But the guard is there, so Pennell comes into the guard, pushes him back. Murray feels the pressure, nobody's open, there's a big gap open, so he just slides in, gets what he can to set up a third and more manageable. So the next play, the Cardinals have a third and about, let's call it 6. They're set up, and they are in 11 personnel this time. So 11 personnel means that they've got one running back, and they've got one tight end. He's actually lined out, split out here. So one running back and one tight end means you've got 3 wide receivers. 1, 2, 3. The Chiefs come out in their nickel personnel. So they've added a 5th defensive back. And that 5th defensive back is Jaden Hicks. So we made note of the fact that Shamari Connor was the second deep safety. Well, they've added a 3rd safety on the field, and they've put him back deep with Brian Cook, and they brought Shamari Connor in to be the nickel. So Trent McDuffie stays outside in the nickel in this situation with Jalen Watts. The 2 linebackers on the field are Nick Bolton and Leo Chanel. One would imagine when Drew Tranquil is back that he will be the second linebacker in this situation. At least that's how things have gone in the past. The defensive ends have stayed the same. You've got Karlaftis and Dana still in, but joining Chris Jones now is Charles Omenihu rushing from the interior. So let's take a look at what happens on this play, and then we can break it down. Murray in the shotgun sends a receiver in motion over to the right, overloading the right side, drops back and throws a quick pass that goes for well over the needed 6 yards. He ends up getting more like 10 or 11, it looks like, for an easy first down. So let's take a look at what's going on with the Chiefs here. So the Chiefs look to be running a fairly not confusing, I should say. Not vanilla is the wrong word, but it's not an exceedingly complicated cover 2. At least that's what it looks like, unless I'm misreading this. Essentially, their 2 deep safeties are going back and playing deep halves. And they're kind of getting everyone underneath to just drop. And the corners are also dropping. So, you have 2 major varieties. There are many varieties, but the 2 kind of major things that corners can do on a straight cover 2. We're not talking about any added wrinkles to it, just a simple cover 2. Is the corners usually either take the flat and stay underneath, or they drop a little bit. And so in this case, it looks like we've got a little bit of a drop, trying to help out because, your safeties have to get all the way out wide to the boundary. And so sometimes these kind of corner routes that stay underneath the safety, a dropping corner can help stay underneath that and make that throw harder. But if the corner is playing more flat responsibilities and the safety stays deep, you might open a big hole here for a hole shot. So the Chiefs are kind of electing to keep things underneath them and drop the corners back. So watch how they end up dropping in coverage. So Connor starts by trying to get a hit on Trey McBride right off the line, their big receiving weapon that some consider to be possibly the best tight end in the league right now. So he gets a shove from Connor, but you see everybody just dropping. Here goes the safeties, drop. And you've got 2 routes here that are more pushing vertical. And then you've got McBride and 14 are playing it shallow. So see, you've got that corner pattern we're talking about. This one is more of like a dig pattern across the field. So you got the dig here, trying to create space between the second level and the deep safety. You've got the corner pattern, which is also forcing McDuffie to drop back, right? McDuffie can't stay up here because he's got to close down the space and prevent that throw. So as Murray wants to throw, he's looking and he's got 14 turned wide open, but they're throwing short of the sticks here, right? This is like a 3 to 3.5 yards short of the sticks. The thing that's confusing to me on this play is that the underneath defenders are really bunched up here. It doesn't look like we've got enough width in our zone, especially when you're looking at this being the wide side of the field. I know it doesn't matter as much in the NFL because the hash marks are closer together, but you're looking at the wide side of the field. I don't know that it makes a ton of sense to me that Connor is on the hash when you've got Nick Bolton inside of the other hash and Leo Chanel right on the other side of the hash. Like, you'd expect there to be a little more of a uniform distribution of people across the field. And so it feels like Connor should be wider here, given that McDuffie is essentially having to be responsible for this entire part of the field. You'd expect maybe Connor should be a little wider here to, even if he's not able to prevent the catch underneath at this yardage distance, at least be able to close at the line of the scrimmage. Like, by the time Connor is even getting close to him, they've already got the first down. So that's what it looks like to me, is that this was supposed to be a fairly routine cover 2, but this doesn't look great, right? I don't think you ever, Murray's already decided where to throw the ball, and look at how bunched up our underneath defenders are. It doesn't look like that's probably how it was drawn up in the film room. All right, so let's take a look at this now from the end zone cam, and we can see again Connor down here. And he's going to come and give his shove, and then he kind of turns quickly. If you notice, Connor turns to the inside and is just trying to get depth. And you wonder if what he's supposed to do is get depth and width here, because there's just a massive gaping hole, and what are we expecting McDuffie to cover here? He's trying to stay underneath this route so it doesn't pop wide open for a huge gain. So first down for the Cardinals, keeps the Chiefs' first team defense on the field. So we jump to the next snap. The Cardinals now with 1st and 10, and they are insisting on staying in big personnel. In fact, even getting bigger. They've got one running back here, and they have 3 tight ends. 1, 2, 3, which is 13 personnel. That leaves you only 1 wide receiver on the field. The Chiefs stick in the base that they have been using so far this drive. The only major change is it looks like Chris Jones is done for the day, and Jerry Tillery is in now at 3 technique. So Chris Jones lasted 3 snaps, and they were probably like, that's enough from you, Chris. Have a seat. And everything else is the same. Connor is back at deep safety with Cook. Cochran, Bolton, and Chanel are the linebackers. So let's take a look at this play, and then we'll break it down. Got Murray with his 3 tight ends. Hands off to the running back, who is initially stonewalled, but then actually manages to get about 5 yards on first down. So we'll take a look at what happened. Again, better seen from the end zone view, but we'll just show you briefly. Again, remember, this is just about gaps. So Karlaftis is here. Jerry Tillery is here. Cochran is going to come right in here. Pennell, then Dana, then Bolton, then Chanel. And you'll see it all come together. And again, initially not really anywhere for Connor to go. You can see there is a bit of opening here in this gap, the B gap right here. And then maybe one could argue the A gap very initially, but if you see, Connor appears to be looking to go left initially on this run. So this is kind of the back side of the run, and then he eventually comes back and looks for a cutback because the left side is so blown up. Again, this B gap remains open, but Tillery is trying to squeeze it, and Connor manages to sneak through for about a 5-yard gain. Okay, so let's look at this in a little more detail. Here's Karlaftis covering the C gap. Tillery's trying to get the B gap. Cochran A here. Pennell A here. Mike Dana comes to get the B gap. Nick Bolton comes to get the C gap. And then Chanel is going to come try to close that D gap. So watch the initial run. So really it looks like they're trying to come up in here. They're trying to open up the B gap right there. Have the double team on Pinnell to start. And then they get Dana right here. Looks like they're trying to open something up on the left side here with this run. Although the way that they're having them block, maybe it was supposed to be a little farther out. But Connor's definitely reading the left here, and he's not getting anything. Dana does a good job getting to the inside here. He's flashing into that gap. Nick Bolton just absolutely destroys his gap. Like, watch him just throw the tight end trying to block him and just ruins any hope there. That's gone. And then Chanel, again, does a good job collapsing. So there ends up being nowhere for Connor to go. So he comes over to the right, and there's that B gap that we said was open. You could see it from the other side. And as Connor spins, Tillery tries to detach. And he actually closes the gap, but if you notice, 74 holds him. So there's actually, because you remember, you're allowed to grab until the defender is trying to disengage, and this right here is what constitutes the hold. When Tillery is trying to pull off of this, and he gets held right there, that's a holding penalty that didn't get called, and it allowed Connor to get about a 5-yard gain here. Because initially when I was watching this, I was like, oh, I thought Tillery was right there. He wasn't able to close that gap. Well, that's why. Right there. Got held right there. I guess the official must not have been looking right there. Maybe he was trying to look for a hold on the other side or something, but he missed that one. And Connor gets about 5 yards on first down. So the Cardinals now have a second and 5 or 6-ish. Come out here in 11 personnel. They've got 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers. So the Chiefs, again, come out in their 5 DB package. They've got McDuffie, Jaden Hicks down here, Brian Cook here, Shamari Connor, and Jalen Watson as the 5 defensive backs. Again, we've got Bolton and Chanel as your linebackers. Again, we anticipate that would be Bolton and Tranquil when Tranquil is healthy. Then we've got Mike Dana and George Karlaftis. And then Mike Pinnell inside. And this looks like Tillery again. I didn't get a great look at him, but I think that's Jerry Tillery once more. So let's take a look at this play real quick, and then we'll break it down. We got Murray in the shotgun. Drops back to throw, and he hits, looks like that's Harrison, right over the middle. Big gain. First down. So what are the Chiefs doing on this one? So if you look at this pre-snap, they really are showing like something like a cover 1 man, right? The only tell that this may not exactly be cover 1 man is that Trent McDuffie is not manned up on anybody. But if you see, you've got Shamari Connor, the safety, who had been playing in the slot versus playing deep. He was down. Other safety, Jaden Hicks, is also down over the top. So we've got both of these guys over the top of receivers. We've got 1 single high. So in general, this would look like cover 1 man, except like who's McDuffie guarding? Like what's going on? I think the one part of this that wouldn't make sense is that you'd expect Hicks to be over the top of the tight end and McDuffie to be over the top of the wide receiver if this was pure cover 1 man. And it's not. It kind of is on this side. Here you essentially just have these 2 manned up, and Bolton playing a robber, and then you've got a deep. But on this side, they essentially play 3 over these 3 in that Chanel, it's like a pattern match in which I can't tell the exact rules, but it's clear that Chanel appears to be taking like more inside breaking routes, McDuffie deep, and Hicks outside breaking. So watch how they kind of match this, and watch how different each side of the field looks. So look up top. I mean, this is just standard man coverage. You see him going up the field, and you see guys just tight man coverage covering their guys. Look down on this side and look at these 3 working together. like this, you can see that Chanel is just trying to wall off any in-breaking route. Watch Hicks as he comes back. He's initially giving a shove to this inside route and then trying to get some width and stay outside. And McDuffie is just trying to stay over the top of everything over here. So they're really trying to, like, this guy being kind of walling off this side, making no one beats him here, and making sure no one beats him back here. Well, unfortunately for us, when that leads to Marvin Harrison Jr. getting an in-breaking route over Leo Chanel, that's not where the Chiefs want to be. This middle of the field is going to be a source of Chief anxiety this year because it's a source of Chief anxiety every year. I should say Chief fan anxiety. And it's for stuff like this. Marvin Harrison Jr. is just, and to be fair, he's more agile than most people in the league. Like, he's going to beat everybody. But the way that he's able to kind of sell a little bit of an outbreaking and then come back in. And Leo Chanel, for all the things he's good at, one thing he's not very good at is change of direction. So if you watch him here, watch him following it out. And then when he realizes, got to get back in, he's gone. Like, he's been beat. Murray's already making the throw. So Murray's deciding to throw the pass now. And you can see momentum from Chanel still in this direction. So by the time he plants and gets around, there's enough of a gap for Murray to throw that in there. First down reception for Harrison. So you see it from this side of the field, watching Leo Chanel. It looks like his responsibility is just to make sure that nobody gets inside of him. But you're dealing with a very good receiver. You see that sell to the outside. That's all that was needed there. Harrison gets his momentum going this way. He just knows once I got Chanel going this way, I can change directions way faster than he can. Boom. Foot in the ground. Chanel can't make up that distance. That's a great throw, timing throw by Murray. Hitting a spot, knowing that Harrison's going to get there. First down for the Cardinals. And now we've got a 1st and 10 for the Cardinals just outside the Chiefs' 30-yard line. They come out in their 12 personnel again. 1 running back, 2 tight ends. And that gives them 2 wide receivers. And the Chiefs again match with the same base we've been seeing all night. One little change here is, we talked about having Tillery in for Chris Jones. Now we've got Charles Omenihu in for Mike Dana. Otherwise, it's the same. Connor and Cook are your wide receivers, or your deep safeties. You've got McDuffie and Watson as your corners. And then Chanel, Nick Bolton, and Cochran make up your base linebackers. So the only change from last time is that we've got Charles Omenihu in rotating in now in defensive end. So let's take a look at this play, and then we can break it down. We've got a bootleg from Murray, which is wildly successful, and he ends up just scrambling, getting about 7 yards. So let's look at what the Chiefs are trying to do here. First of all, the bootleg action was very successful, washing out the entire defensive line. So Murray is able to escape and essentially see no pressure whatsoever. The Chiefs underneath guys, even though they come up for, even Cook coming up for the play fake, they end up being set up with 2 deep, and they get some pretty decent spacing underneath. So they've got safeties over the top. Bolton does a good job getting some depth. So, it's hard to tell what they would have been doing, but it looks kind of Tampa 2-y at this point. Everybody's trying to get back to their spot and cover their zone. But got 2 deep. Maybe, Bolton was kind of getting depth there, but they do a pretty good job. And they're helped by the fact that the Cardinals' spacing isn't great. So here Murray's rolling out, and, one might argue he's got this here before Cook does a great job if you see Cook kind of closing in on this. So he makes this, a bit of a decision there. One might argue that at this moment right there, where Cook's momentum is going in this direction, this might be a nice time to make this throw. But otherwise, you've got Harrison running into Bolton's zone, and he recognizes this, so he cuts it off a bit more shallow to try to give an opening. However, the tight end is also kind of leaking right into the same area, so this was never an option. McDuffie has this locked up completely. Cook, like we said, when his momentum was going the other way, this might have been an option initially, but he quickly corrects that. And Bolton ends up being just in a good spot to take this away. And once this tight end starts leaking out down the field, Harrison has come kind of into his spot. And Murray just decides to run for it. He gets a decent gain of about 7 yards. So a pretty good recovery from the Chiefs. You can see it to start. Look at all these steps forward, right? Linebackers have completely committed. Cook has committed up to. So they really had to scramble a bit to get back. Look at Bolton getting good depth. Look at Chanel getting back. And so they did a good job of covering up and ultimately making it a little difficult. You can see here on this side that McBride initially, when he makes his turn, this would be the time because Cook is headed in that direction. But look how quickly Cook corrects here, and now suddenly you're worried. If you make this throw, he might drive on this and pick it off. But over here too, Harrison recognizes he's kind of going into Bolton's area, so he starts coming shallow, but the tight end is getting depth. So they're kind of in each other's areas. Like I said, McDuffie has this completely locked up. So there's not really anywhere for Murray to go. This is good recovery by the Chiefs defense. Murray takes the 7 yards and slides. All right, so the following play here, the Cardinals come back again in 12 personnel. 1 running back, 2 tight ends. It's a second and fairly manageable. And the Chiefs, again, are in their base. This is the same base as the last play. We've got Connor, Cook, Watson, McDuffie, our trio of Chanel, Bolton, Cochran. Karloftis and Amenahue are still on the field, and here's Tillery and Pinnell. So lined up in their base. Chris Jones is clearly done for the night at this point. And let's take a look at what the Cardinals did, and then we'll break it down. So here they are under center in their 12 personnel. They run it over to the left. Connor cuts it back and manages to get down to the 14-yard line. Really the first not great run play from the Chiefs defense so far. They had done pretty well against the run and would have kind of stonewalled every run if not for that hold on Tillery that wasn't called. So let's see what the issues are coming here. So again, we're just talking everybody filling their gaps. So you see that initially the outside C gap again is Karloftis. Cochran is responsible for the B gap. Pinnell is responsible for the A gap in between. And I think what really you'll see is what starts becoming the problem is that Pinnell gets moved a little bit more than we would hope and honestly we're used to seeing. So they're trying to get this run over to the left. And the idea is to flow as a unit slowly so you don't create any cutback lanes. So, obviously the line needs to get over, the defensive line over to the left to prevent him from getting the edge. So he's going to press as hard as he can toward the edge to try to get over commitment to the edge so that he might have an opportunity to cut back. And over commitment to the edge could be defenders losing their gap integrity or just being shoved toward the direction of the run more than one would anticipate, and that's kind of what happened with Pinnell. Pinnell gets really washed over there, and what that does is it makes Cochran's job of sealing that B gap a lot harder. He's got way more ground to cover, and he's not Leo Chanel, and remember, he's going up against a tackle here, so we're not talking Leo Chanel, who can shove people into gaps and essentially hold his own against a lot of offensive linemen. This is a lighter linebacker. And to his credit, he does manage to pop off of the block here and make an attempt at Connor. And he gets him. Actually, you'll see on the other view, unfortunately for Cochran, Connor's shoe comes off. You can see it in his hand. So he got Connor, tried to ankle tackle him. All he did was got Connor's shoe, and Connor was able to get through that gap. But here you can see what we're talking about. So again, Karlaftis here, Cochran here. Pennell is responsible for maintaining the integrity here. So look at these three. So now as the run is flowing, the Chiefs are actually doing an okay job building a wall where Connor's trying to go initially. But look at Pennell getting really pushed off his spot, clearly faster than he's trying to go. He's getting moved over, and that's what opens up this B gap over here. And Cochran doesn't have the strength to force the tackle into that gap and close it. However, he did get off of the block here, and that's his attempt to close it there. He gets some of Connor, but if you notice, Connor just steps out of his shoe, and Cochran is left holding Connor's shoe. So big run there. The Chiefs weren't able to maintain the same gap integrity that they did on the previous two runs, and the result is a first down run from the Cardinals. And here we have the subsequent play. The Cardinals have a first down in the Chiefs' red zone at about 12-yard line. The Cardinals come out here in 11 personnel. Got one running back, one tight end. Gets you 11 personnel. The Chiefs come out in their nickel. They've got 5 defensive backs, and they're doing it the same way they were earlier. They've got McDuffie, Connor, Hicks, and Watson, and then Brian Cook is the deep safety. Bolton and Chanel are the linebackers. Dana is back in with Charles Omenihu, so this is the first time Karlaftis is not on the field, and then Pennell and Jerry Tillery. So lined up here again like they're in cover one man, but let's take a look at the play first, and then we will break it down. So we've got Murray, fakes a handoff, then spins out to his left on the move. He throws it, and it's intercepted by Jaden Hicks. Brings it back to about the 20, 21-yard line on the run back. So let's take a look at how this happened. Like I was starting to mention earlier, this is really looking like cover one, although the Chiefs are kind of disguising it. At the snap, it really looks like cover one. You got man-to-man, 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 your one deep safety, which is what gets you cover one. And then if that were the coverage call, then one of these linebackers would be responsible for the running back in man coverage, and the other one would be an underneath defender. And now if we roll it forward, you can see the alignment. On this side, they do seem to be just purely playing man. You can see that Connor's running with Harrison in the slot. And you've got Cook over the top here. On this side, it looks like they might have, like, Watson has decided that they've decided that Watson's going to carry the more vertical route, and Hicks will take the underneath, because right when they release, you see Hicks kind of jam and then pass off to Watson, and then Hicks ends up taking the tight end on the shallow route. So unclear if that was always the plan, or if it was, well, let's decide like whoever the vertical route you take and the shallow route I'll take. Either way, it ultimately results in essentially man coverage. Everybody's manned up, and you've got Cook over the top. It's a play action fake, so they fake it like they're running a zone read. And instead, off of the zone read, Murray spins out. So they do get a lot of commitment. You see the linebackers all kind of freeze and step up. Hicks is jamming, but you see them freeze and step up. Omenihu stops in his pass rush because you've got a pulling guard here, and he's trying to figure out if this is a zone read, if Kyle Murray might be keeping this. You see Cook come up initially too. So the Chiefs, again, after a play action, are forced to scramble, but they do end up kind of hanging on and being in position. Connor's in a tough spot because he's trying to run with Marvin Harrison across the formation. And it's interesting because I feel like Kyler Murray got a lot of criticism for this play. Everybody was basically like, well, that was a terrible throw. I don't know what he was seeing or what he was doing. And honestly, I lean a little more toward this was just a really good play by Hicks. Because if you see here that the Cardinals have a route combination, they've got the corner pattern, he's coming across, and then they've got the tight end going under. And you essentially have man coverage on everybody, right? Jalen Watson is running with the corner pattern. Shamari Connor is running with Harrison across the field. And Jaden Hicks is responsible for McBride in the flat. So if you're a quarterback in this position and you're understanding what the defense is doing, now one could argue maybe he locked on a little hard to Harrison, but you know what you're doing. A lot of times as a quarterback, I think we get this Madden impression that everybody can see everything on the field. Well, no, you can't. And so a lot of what you decide and what you anticipate as a quarterback is based on where you expect people to be, especially when you're a shorter quarterback like Kyler Murray. He probably trusts that even more. But you don't have time to go and verify everything by looking around. Your windows are going to close. So if you've ID'd man coverage and then you see, okay, I'm going to have Harrison on a crosser, he's beating his man, you're not expecting anybody to be out here. The Chiefs are playing man, and Hicks is playing man, but Hicks also sees Murray lock on, and he understands that, I've got the tight end in the flat. Even if I give him a little bit of a cushion, I can drive down on this route. Let me get a little bit of depth. And so he does, and then Murray, in trying to hit this crosser, ends up throwing it right to Hicks. I honestly think it's a lot more of a good play by Jaden Hicks than it is a bad play by Murray. Obviously, it's not a good play from Murray. But you can see what his thought process was. It wasn't like this was completely boneheaded. This was him correctly IDing the coverage, understanding that this route will win against that coverage, and not thinking about the fact that maybe an underneath defender will drop back under, and should you verify that particular thing? Possibly, probably. I mean, we'd need someone who's a little more offensively sound to tell me. I would imagine you probably do, but it's not like he was just being an idiot. You don't expect this defender to be there. Why would he be there? He's guarding that guy, and you've identified man. I mean, I think it's just props to Jaden Hicks for dropping off of his man and trying to, muddy the water as much as he can. And he's doing that, taking a risk, basically saying that, I'm on this tight end. I'm not that worried about him catching the ball at the line of scrimmage. Even if I'm 8 to 10 yards deep, I'll come up and get him. That's just confidence in himself. And that's what leads to the pick. You see it here from this angle, from the end zone view. And again, here's the zone read. You see everybody kind of freezing in their tracks. Murray spins out, and then you see it, right? This is man coverage. He's got a guy running with him. He's got a guy running with him. He's looking at his guy, Harrison, coming across. You're not anticipating anything here. There's nothing about a zone drop, or why would you expect a defender to be there? This guy's supposed to be occupied here. It's just a really good play by Hicks. And again, will some quarterbacks identify this in real time and not throw it? Yeah, of course. But you understand again what he was doing. Look, he's trying to see if his guy's going to pop open. And he has no reason to think that Hicks is going to get that kind of depth. Did Hicks outsmart him? Yeah. But was that an unreasonable assumption for Kyler Murray to make? I don't think so. Should he have verified it? Maybe. But it's not like it was just completely boneheaded. There are a lot of times quarterbacks make throws that they don't verify things. That's the reason why they're able to make the throw. They can anticipate what's happening based on what the defense is doing. And that's how they make great plays. Anyway, that's it for the Chiefs starting defense from week 1 of the preseason. like I said, for talk about the others, the performance of Nazi Johnson, Ashton Gelati, Jeffrey Bassa, Noel Williams. Follow along with the Steeler Thoughts Chief Feelings podcast. We'll have some discussion about their play there in the podcast. The film review we're kind of reserving for the guys that we think are going to be making more regular contributions with the starting 11 on defense during the regular season. And that's it for the preseason week 1 film review. Please check back after week 2. We will again be looking at the performance of the Chiefs starters. And again, check out the Steeler Thoughts Chief Feelings podcast, either on YouTube or wherever you download podcasts. We'll be on social media at STCF715 on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. Thanks so much for following along.